move on to lists. So let's go through lists. So a list is literally what it sounds like it is. It's a list of information. So lists are used to store multiple items in a single variable. Thank you, Replit. All right. So how can we set up a list? So all we do is we just type in the variable name. So we can say our list, just like we've done previously, the assignment key, and then we use these brackets here. Okay. These brackets specify a list. And inside the list, you can see I've added some names here with the quotation marks around it, specifying that it is a string. We can also add in numbers, so that this list doesn't just have to hold the string values, it can also hold integers. So I can put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we could have another one called list nums. Same thing. And then just numbers from 1 to 9. Now another way to specify a list is if we want an empty list for whatever reason, we could say empty list. We can do it like this, just with the brackets and nothing inside it. Or what we can do is we can use the constructor, which is list, and then just the brackets, just like that. Okay. So this is a constructor. This is calling for the list class, and it's just saying that this list is empty. So this is the exact same as using the brackets like that, which, to be honest, that's the way most people would do it, is to just do it like this. However, I have used list before, like this, when the code was getting quite complex, just to specify that, hey, this particular variable here is an empty list. And the reason is because when you're looking at multiple lines of code and you go past something that has a variable like this and it's very small, you can sort of overlook it. So this is good. This sort of defines what it is, okay? All right, so that's what a list is. It's just holding information. So now what we'll do is we'll go through tuples. So tuple, T-U-P-L-E. So what is a tuple? So a tuple is very much like a list, okay? But we're just using the brackets like this, okay? We're not using the square brackets. Using these ones, okay? So why would we use a tuple? We use tuples because they're immutable, meaning that once we set a tuple, it cannot be changed. So for example, with a list, I'm just going to show you something quickly with a list, okay? Don't worry about this. You don't need to understand the full programming aspect behind this. But with a list, if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I go x dot append 1, print x, what you can see is that 1 will be added to the end, okay? In a tuple, you can't do that. You can't add to a tuple. It's immutable. You cannot change it. So a tuple is, so just say we set x like this and we add values 1, 2, 3. That remains 1, 2, 3. We cannot change it. We can't manipulate it. That's what it is. Now you might ask, like, why would someone want to use this? And it is useful, and it's useful when you've got sets of data that you don't want to change. For example, you might have someone's card numbers for a gym membership. So you might have card numbers, and we might specify that these card numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. Just for example, like that. Say we've got a tuple full of card numbers. Say it's an exclusive gym where only three people can participate. So we've got card numbers here, and we're saying that for each person that comes in and scans the card, these are the only the only values that we want to accept. Now, later on in the program, we don't want anyone to be able to manipulate this when they enter their card numbers or try and add. We don't want anyone to be able to add to this exclusive card number list. We just want to keep these values the same. That's just an example of why we might use it. Okay, so tuples, just remember, once they're set, can't change them. And there's plenty of reasons why we might use these. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go through sets. Okay, so a set, just like that, a set. So what a set is it's basically like a list, but it holds unique values. So if you try and add to a set the number 1 and 1 already exists in that set, it won't allow you to do that. Okay, and the way we initialize these is by typing set and the brackets. So that's how we initialize an empty set. So empty set. Okay. Now, if we want to specify a set and add values to it, we can do it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what I can do is I can go print X, and what you'll see is those values will be held in it. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now, just like the list before, when I tried to add, okay, I'll try and add a number that's already in there. When I added 1 to the list, I used .append, and I added 1 to the list, and as you can see, it was just added on the end. With this, when I use x.add, which is not really, you don't worry about this stuff, we'll go through this later on. We'll go through the append and add later on. I just want to show you that this value here will not be added to the list. As you can see, the list remains the same because the value here that we're trying to add is not going to be unique. If we add 1 to it, the set is no longer unique. Now, if I go and add a different number like 5, you can see that that value will be added. Okay, and you might be asking, why would we use sets? Sets are normally used for when you want to have unique data types. For example, I've used sets when I've tried to find unique words in a text. So I've imported a file and then I've iterated through the words in the file and only found the unique words that I was looking for. You might want to use it for particular numbers for certain things. You might only want specific types. For example, you might use it for a blacklist for internet protocols or something like that. So just say you've got the number 2.2.2 and that points to a particular domain and you want to blacklist it. You might add 2.2.2.2 or whatever, and then put that in a set and have that blacklisted so that if someone comes through and tries to blacklist the same number, it's already going to be entered and it's not going to affect the amount of storage that you have. Okay, that's just an example of why you would use a set. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how we can index these particular types of data or data types. So let's go for a list first. So when indexing a list, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a list of the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then say I want to only get the value of 2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a thing called indexing. So what indexing is, it's the index position that this particular value is held at. So indexing starts at 0. Okay, so just think of it like a pigeonhole. Pigeonhole starts at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each of these is starting in the first pigeonhole. So if I go indexes, this is how they will be. 1 will be held in pigeonhole 0, 2 will be held in pigeonhole 1, 3, 2, and 4, 3. Okay. So for example, if I want to print the value of 1, what I have to do is I can't just say, okay, 1 is in position 1, I want to print 1. I can't just go like this, because what it's going to do is it's going to print 2, because 2 is in the index position 1. Okay, I know that can seem really confusing at first, but just remember, if you want the value 2 and it's 1, 2 across, subtract 1 from it for the index and you'll get that value. Okay, now what if I go -1? What do you think will happen here? It'll go back, so it'll loop back over to this index position here and return 4. Okay, and I know this is going to be really confusing, but you just have to get used to it. Like it's very relevant to when you're accessing data types in a list. Okay, so this is how we access singular values in a list. Okay, so say I want to get the value of 3, I would need to get index 2. Okay, bang, value 3. Okay, so that's just how we access individual values in a list. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a tuple. Okay, and all that's doing is, when we're doing the indexing, is the exact same as the list. We're just going through, specifying what index position we want, and we'll get that value returned. It's the exact same as the list. There's absolutely no change. Okay. All right, so let's go through sets. So the way that we create a set is like we did before. We have our brackets, our curly braces, and then we just put our values in there. Okay, so now when I first learnt this, I thought the way to get a particular value out of a set was to just do the same as you would do on a list. But what you'll see is a set object is not subscriptable, meaning that we can't index it in the same way that we would a list. Okay, so the best way to do this that I found is to just turn the set into a list. So what I can do is I can go like this, specify the list, and say, hey, we want X to be a list now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to print it, and we're going to print the value of index 0, which is we want 1. Okay, need to change this to Y. And then what you're going to see is we're going to get the value 1. So sets are different, you can't index them the same way, and you have to convert them to a list. There is other ways you can do it, but this is the most simplest way to get those values out of a set. All right, so that's it for today. So now what I want to do is just go through and practice indexing some sets and lists, practice some print statements. So maybe you could write a list of multiple values and then just index it. So you could say print, use a formatted string, and then just practice writing, maybe something like this. The first number is, and then you can do your indexing. Okay. So I just want you to practice that, go through some basic things that we've gone through, and just also some casting there with the sets. Okay. In the next video, what we'll do is we'll go through how to do iterations through sets and tuples, and how we can access all the information in there and produce it on the screen. We'll also go through how to get a user's input and input it into a list, into a tuple, and then how to iterate through that information to have a nice output on the screen. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.